Trevor represents them well. And oh my, that'll be Al-Shaair, who's flagged for the big hit on the slide, and that's going to start a little bit of a scrum afterwards as the Jaguars come in to protect their QB.
That audio courtesy of the NFL on Fox, and that was the controversial hit that led to a 3-game suspension of the secondary member of the Houston Texans, Azeez Al-Shaair, over Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence now having shoulder surgery to end his season, and we're here to break it down on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I am joined with Paul Chivari and Devin Tingle. So it was a very physical, a very emotional week in football, both professionally and semi-pro in the NFL and in college football. And I think we'll start in the NFL with this hit. It's an interesting conversation as this story has developed, right? The suspension happened. All the press conferences happened. We've seen the injuries. We saw the ramifications of it in the middle of the game. Mac Jones now is a starting quarterback again in the NFL because of this hit, right? It asks the question, why was Trevor Lawrence even playing, having this injury, and one big hit now has him season-ending shoulder surgery when your season was tanked. There's a lot of different avenues to go down. I kind of want to bring this up. In my opinion, obviously a dirty hit. What I want to, I don't know, maybe bring light to, or at the very least, are people talking about quarterbacks these days kind of having it both ways? And I'll explain to you. With it being a dirty hit, which it was, I'm watching the play, and it may not be as egregious like when Patrick Mahomes did it, but this fake slide in between where you're kind of motioning that you're going to slide, and then you pull back up and you get an extra 3-4 yards. Or you're doing that hesitation, and then you fully commit, and then you get rocked, and somebody goes for your head. At some point in the NFL, we also have to understand that people have to play defense. We saw a really bad hit. I think it was on Tucker Kraft just on Thursday Night Football, where it was shoulders to the inside next to his knees. Where else are people supposed to make tackles? There are so many rules against defensive players in the NFL. And while this was a nasty, dirty hit, and we hope all the best for Trevor Lawrence, I don't think it should be ignored that they put defensive players out there and hang them out there to dry. They have to make split-second decisions. These are the most athletic athletes amongst athletes in the world, and you're asking them to stop on a dime. And then you add the additional hurdle of Mahomes is going to do this little juke move that's going to make you stop and think, and that's your job. That's millions of dollars you're losing. So I think this is it's much more than just a very, very easy sports radio dirty hit, not a dirty hit, because I think we all see what it is. But I think we take a perspective view of it. What are some of these cornerbacks, some of these safeties supposed to do with quarterbacks or with bigger receivers these days where you have tight ends and wide receivers that are 6'5", 230? Paul, you saw the hit. You've seen the fallout. You've heard the conversation. You've heard my spiel. Where were you on the type of hit it was and kind of my thought on what NFL defensive players are dealing with in modern day offensive football that we've always been talking about for the last decade, but now with the athlete changing time and how fast these decisions are made. What are your thoughts about kind of this whole situation?
Well, the court of a public opinion right away was condemning the hit, and I saw it. It looked dirty, but you do bring up a good point with quarterbacks have been trying to get away with this fake slide, and it's led to some neat highlights, but at the same time, well, then it puts the defensive player at a disadvantage. Al-Shaair is standing by what he did, though, and so is the Texans coach DeMarco Ryans, saying that Lawrence should share some of the responsibility of the hit. And it doesn't help, though, that Al-Shaair this year alone already locally got into some trouble this year after a hit on Caleb Williams that didn't get flagged for, I think it was a late hit, right? Yeah. Or at least it wasn't a late hit because Williams hadn't established that he's out of bounds. I think that was more of a learning lesson for Williams than it was for Al-Shaair. And then I guess he went after Tom Brady a couple years ago as well.
Yes.
So it doesn't help that the personality, or at least the reputation of the person in question, is already going to be held in that sort of regard, that he's known for being a dirty player. Kind of like Vontaze Burfict was a good example, where no matter what that guy did, it was always going to be treated a little bit harsher because he has a reputation for this. I know it's a little bit, these are two different players, two different styles. Burfict is probably an extreme example compared to Al-Shaair, but the perception, though, because I think that does factor into the mind of the referee when it happens. And then the NFL reacting by giving a 3-game suspension, that's nothing to sneeze at. I would have expected maybe a heavy fine and 1 game, maybe 2 games.
Sure.
Maybe 2 games. 3 games, though. I'm not saying that's harsh, but I think that's the NFL trying to explain that, no, you can't be doing this. But then it becomes, well, then what do we do to protect the quarterback, and should we ban the fake slide?
I think that's a conversation they're going to have at owners and GM meetings. And when they get to this offseason, we know that the safety of the quarterback means everything. Devin, I'm going to throw it to you. I want people to remember this is sport, but these companies are paying for TV property. So they don't want Mac Jones out there on prime time or on Thursday nights or on Sunday afternoon. They want the starting quarterback for the Jaguars, and that's Trevor Lawrence. They want the talent out there. So they're going to do whatever they can to protect the quarterback. And to I think the Texans' point, quarterbacks need to hold some responsibility. They get paid a lot of money, and they're the ones who are controlling that moment. I think the truth as fans and people outside the field have to remember how fast these moments happen, how fast these athletes and these collisions are, and split the second decisions that are made when this play is going on. Devin, what do you think about the hits and kind of the fallout since then?
Well, it's like a lot what you're saying here, Mercado. I mean, wasn't it a few weeks ago someone actually ended up going into a referee just off of a slide because, just had to go. What are they going to do? Go stop crash there? And again, going to the fake slide, I mean, we saw Justin Fields get, rocked a few times with that too here. And it's a lot of things where it's like dirty hits are dirty hits. You got to condemn this. But there's 2 big reasons why the NFL really does 3 I'm going to say that they're going to go always protecting the offense. First off, let's be real here. How many people have a jersey of a defensive player on any NFL team?
Defense, it'd have to be special players. You have your Aiden Hutchinsons and your Max Crosbys. But to your point, everybody has as many Aiden Hutchinsons is as many Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs and Monty and so on.
Yeah, the offense is that's what people like to see here. A lot of people will have good, we see in the NFC North. It's like, oh, you need a great offense and not so great defense. That's why Lovie Smith. I'm getting sidetracked here. But the big reason why they really got to capitalize, so you want to protect the quarterback because they're the star, but also it was how many years ago that it came to the point where it's like, oh, concussions in NFL are a big deal. They're happening all the time. Like, how many former players have said they're going to donate their brain to science to see what the effects of a concussion are on their brain here? And especially with dirty hits, you get smacked like that. That's definitely going to be a factor there. And it's really going to rock you out, and it's going to mess with your brain. And they're trying to protect people's lives, because we got guys that, football players that are, in their 50s or 60s, they sit in a room for a few minutes and they're like, wait, I'm in my living room, but where the hell am I actually? I don't know this. And the second one is, we remember, this was roughly about 10 years ago, I caught out that Greg Williams was, paying players to do dirty hits and injure people. Bountygate. Thank you. And ever since then, you can say it's concussions. Bountygate was the worst publicity the NFL has had in a long time.
It's definitely up with the John Gruden stuff, with the concussion stuff. There's I would say, I forgot the player's name that passed that took his own life on the parking lots.
Dave Duerson
was at Kansas City. Andy Reid.
Derek Thomas. No, it wasn't Derek. No, it wasn't Derek Thomas.
I forgot. But obviously,
so many though.
So many. Junior Seau was another big one. And before we bring it home, the player that I was mentioning, Paulie, was Javon Belcher. It was in 2012, December 1st, 2012, in a murder-suicide. He killed his 22-year-old girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, before driving to the Chiefs training facility and shooting himself in the head with a handgun. So, I think it was, Devin, you were talking about the biggest controversies over the years, Bountygate being one of them. I think just when it's just the concussions, and when you see players like Tua and Trevor Lawrence planking and having the signals with their fingers, kind of having that visceral reaction to a concussion. And obviously, Damar Hamlin getting that 1 in a billion heart attack on the field because of a hit. It's the violence of the sport, but there is still rules and levels to it that we expect. And defensive players have to control themselves, and the offensive players have to hold some sort of responsibilities. It's just sad that it takes lessons like this. And thankfully, Trevor Lawrence will play and will be back next season. But that could have been a devastating way that it could have ended so many different ways. But we want to know your thoughts. Let us know about this crazy story between the Texans and the Jaguars. We had a whole lot left of football talk because that wasn't the only crazy story that happened on the field in the football world. We got that coming up next here on the Sports Cubicle. He's Paul Chivari. He's Devin Tingle. I'm Mike Mercado. You're here on WCPT 820 Chicago.